data. Joining us now, the president and CEO of Voto Latino, Maria Teresa Kumar. The nonprofit organization is launching a national campaign to register more voters. So great to have you back on the show. What's the strategy to register more voters, and what can be learned from some of the losses of voters on the Democratic side in the past?
Well, Mika, first of all, thanks for the conversation. I have to say, Voto Latino, we co-founded National Voter Registration Day in 2012, thinking that it was, we weren't sure if it was going to take off. In fact, we have thousands of partners, and in the last almost 10 years, over 6 million Americans have registered. They've heeded the call and said, yes, I want to participate. And when we talk about what are the challenges that we've seen in the last 10 years when it comes to registration, we often forget that there have been more barriers put to voting itself. We have now seen a lot of folks who thought that they registered only to come on voting day and realize that they have been purged from their files for whatever reason. And so one of the actions that we're encouraging people to do this time is that even if you're registered to vote, go and check your voting roll. If you have moved, make sure that you're now at your current address. If you've changed your name, make sure that your voter registration file has your actual name. And for whatever reason, if you have been purged, make sure that you have your voter registration up to date. One of the things that we've learned, Mika, is that in 2018, a massive amount of Americans went out and voted. And it turned out that that impact had the largest, most diverse chamber in our U.S. House of Representatives. So when Americans vote, we actually see a difference in our chambers, and we see a difference in our legislation. Rinse and repeat in 2020, a record turnout despite a pandemic. People decided that their health was as equally as important as their democracy, and so they sacrificed it, and we saw great change. And then in 2022, we saw a dip in voter registration and participation, and we saw it again in 2024. And so if there's anything that we can see and read any tea leaves, that when we register, when we vote, regardless of party, we do see massive change if we participate at the polls. And one of the things that I encourage the Democrats to take a real close look at is that 1 in 3 young voters are not registered. But when they are registering, they're registering as independents. Why? Because they come to the party quite literally to vote because they care about issues. They care about student loans. They want access to health care. And so if there is any lessons to be learned is that even as an independent, if you have policies that can swing you to vote as a Democrat or as a Republican, people, especially new voters, they really care about your policies. They care about the issues that are going to impact their daily lives. So this National Voter Registration Day, Mika, is all about celebrating being American. How do we show love of country? It's through our civic duty of participation with the easiest act, registering and voting.
Jen.
Maria, Teresa, I know you all are nonpartisan, and this is about registering voters of any and all parties. But the Times had a story last month, didn't get a ton of attention, but it certainly caught my attention about how the difference between registration of Democrats and Republicans, and how Republicans are in 30 states greatly outperforming Democrats in voter registration. Do you, the degree to which this is tracked in states, do you see this happening with Latino voters? And what do you think Democrats, what would your message to Democrats be to change this trend?
Yeah. Well, the New York Times buried the lead because the largest registered group of voters are independent voters. And we're seeing that in a huge traction among young voters. And so what I would encourage the Democratic Party is to have a very clear 10-point issue of why someone should vote for them. And I think that's the moment to do it so right now. I think that they're still trying to find what the top policy issues are, and now's the moment for them to say, well, I actually care about student loans. I care about the fact that whether or not people have Medicare and Medicaid. I care about whether people have access to affordable housing, because that's been the historic platform. But most voters, especially new voters, don't know. And when you see that close to 56% of Latinos specifically receive their news by TikTok and on Instagram, we have to be able to diversify our messaging and making sure that young people understand who is the party that basically shares their values when it comes to bread and butter issues, and to communicate them in those platforms.
President and CEO of Voto Latino, Maria Teresa Kumar, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. We appreciate it.